Well, thank you for coming this morning, and I am going to let Troy Williams, he is our development director, our community development director here at the city. He's going to start us out, and then we'll get into the program. But thank you for coming.
Thanks, Richard. Good morning, everybody. I am Troy Williams, Community Development Director here at the City of Arlington. I wanted to start off first by just thanking each and every one of you that are here in this room for all that you do in our communities. I want to recognize all the important work you do at the community level, whether we fund you or not, right? Your work is kind of the patchwork that holds our community together. So I wanted to start by acknowledging that and thanking you for that. In our current kind of environment, we really kind of embrace and understand the importance of expanding our network of service providers to meet the critical needs in the community. Be it food security, workforce development, healthcare access, the whole litany of services that are needed in this community. We rarely recognize that collaboration is very important. Additionally, as a part of our efforts to build that social network, we've been real intentional about trying to reach out to very diverse kind of service providers of various backgrounds and interests. And so each year we've tried to expand kind of the base of folks that come out, learn about our funding opportunities, apply, and then oftentimes are successful in those efforts. So I just wanted to kind of get a sense of who's here in the room today. So if you've been funded in the past by the City of Arlington, could you just raise your hand just so I could see how many new folks? Okay, great, congratulations. And I see that there's a lot of hands that have not been raised, so there's a lot of opportunity there as well. How many folks are Arlington-based, their organization? Awesome. Fort Worth? Great. The other spot, Dallas? Good, excellent. No, I'm just kidding. And so, as you can see, we're pretty diverse, both our geographic footprint, as well as the line of businesses that we're in. And so we're going to utilize that diversity of effort to really align us with the City Council's priorities. And so I want to give you a quick glimpse of what those priorities are for 2025. We have essentially 6 key priorities that our City Council will want to focus on. First of which is to build unity. I think everyone is aware that Arlington is the most diverse city in North Texas and the 4th most diverse city in the country. And so we always want to lean into that, be proud of it, and also utilize it to execute a broader agenda. Secondly, we want to champion great neighborhoods. We want to build upon the strength and the unique characteristics of our neighborhoods and make them even stronger and placemate with those neighborhoods so that people can identify more readily with those strengths. And have pride in their respective communities. Enhance regional mobility, invest in our economy. So of course, education and workforce development are critical areas in that respect. Leverage technology. How can we use AI to make people's lives better? All of the resources that we have from a technological perspective, how can we infuse those into some of those applications? And of course, finally, and probably most importantly, is the ultimate mission of supporting our youth and our families and growing opportunities for both parties. So as you can see, the council priorities are pretty broad, and it's going to take all of us to move that needle. And our grants team is a critical element of that. So I want to take a moment and introduce the stellar staff. They're probably on pins and needles because they know I'm terrible with names, but I promise you I'm going to get it right, y'all. So I know them all, I just messed their names up. So the first of which is Catherine Donaldson. And as I call your name, come on down so everybody can see who you are. Where is Miss Catherine? She outside, okay. So Catherine's our finance officer and a terrible competitive bowler, just so you know. I want to make sure she's here. I told him you were a terrible bowler, Miss Catherine. So we went out on a team building event last week at Main Event, and I just wore out. Come on up. Hyder Akram is our senior grants accounts analyst. I know you didn't think it was going to happen, but I made it happen. I got it right. Richard Prine, who's been speaking to you this morning, our grants supervisor. Shauna Montoya Washington, our grants coordinator. Come on up. I put it down, didn't I? Cicely Frazier, grants coordinator. Crystal Alvarez. I think Crystal may be on jury duty today, right? Sarah Kanema, our data, grants evaluation and comps analyst, and Ms. Raven Pritchett. Raven out today? Okay, so I want to take a moment to just kind of quickly talk about Raven's role in the organization. We just stood up our Grants Innovation Center. Wait a minute, don't leave me yet. We just stood up our Grants Innovation Center, and so that's an opportunity for us to really centralize our grant making and grant application processes across the enterprise. So now we kind of house all of that, but it also gives us a chance to rethink government and think about ways that we can take innovative approaches to solving problems. And so not only are we thinking about that internally, but we're also thinking about how we can partner with stakeholders externally. And so I just want to make you aware of that development from our grants team. So with that, I'll let staff sit down. And, they'll be back up later. And then kind of as I wrap up, I want to kind of stay consistent with the theme of stakeholder partnerships and how important they are. And so with that, I wanted to take a moment to recognize the United Way of Tarrant County. The United Way has been a critical partner for us in many of our efforts to bring social stability to our city, from leading our Arlington Financial Stability Committee to serving as the lead organization for our grant review process that you'll hear about today. And so we could not execute our work without our much appreciated partnership with the United Way. And so with that, I want to take a moment to introduce you to Mr. Sean Dorsey, who is the Social Impact Officer for United Way, correct?
Chief Impact Officer.
Chief.
Social Impact.
Yeah,
We
it
make
all
a
works.
change.
But so I want to turn it over to Sean, let him make a few remarks. Make sure y'all congratulate him on his nuptials. New brother doing that, so thank you, Sean.
Yes, I am almost a month into being married now, so, really excited about that, And then I was telling Troy a minute ago, and just as quick as I got married, my wife is out traveling, and so I'm at home by myself, kind of scared in that house. But no, so very grateful to be here with you all. So very thankful for the partnership with the city of Arlington and what we here at United Way have been able to do in partnership with the city to, really make impact. Some of the things that Troy touched on that make this relationship so important and so powerful is just the alignment about really investing in our community. For us, we talk a lot about our strategic pillars of education and youth opportunity, financial security, community health, community resilience, and all of those things tie right back into it. But a really big driver of even where we're at in our framework for how we support making investments in our community. We talk about this the 5 I's framework, and it's really identifying community issues and need. How do we help show up with identifying needs? It's about informing our community. What are those needs? What's really pressing? What are we hearing from the collective of everybody? And then inviting, and this is a part of the process that's so important, is we do not sit in a silo and figure out all the answers. We have to invite community to the table to help and share with us in finding those solutions. And then that's where we put investment back into it, right? This process allows us to put help in partnership with the city of Arlington, put dollars right back into agencies who are doing amazing work on the ground. And then that last piece that I think ties so beautifully, we are at this point in time where innovation becomes so critically important. How are we thinking differently about the complex problems that we all collectively need to figure out how we solve? So this is an amazing time and an amazing opportunity to put those efforts together to really change and shape our communities with the amazing work that you all do. So I am fortunate to get to lead this body of work for our team, but I don't do it directly and I don't do it alone. So I really shout out a couple of people from the United Way team who really help us lead that impact. So I'll first shout out Shanna Snyder. She is our Senior Director of Community Investment and truly is the quarterback of this process for our team and our staff. And I don't see Caitlin, but Caitlin McDonald, the right hand to Shanna, really helping make sure that our connection in the community is real, it's authentic, and we are really showing up in the right way. But this process is not a staff-led process. It is not a it is not for us to do alone. So we get to really lean into this community volunteerism and partnering with people who have great stake in how successful our communities are. So we're fortunate. I see Alex McMartin, the chair of our Arlington steering group, and then Susan Van Metter, who is one of our committee members and one of our partners who help us bring this all together. So with all that said, just a huge thank you and kudos to the staff. You'll get to hear more from them later today. Huge kudos and thank you to the city for continuing this partnership, Richard and all the amazing people here. And we're really excited to kick off this year's CDBG process. So with that said, the last thanks is to you all for being in the room, for the amazing work that you will get to do to really shape our community. So with that, I thank you and I turn it over to Richard. Awesome. All right, thank you all.
Thank you, Sean. So I want to piggyback on that and just say United Way has a significant impact on our community. And if you're not familiar with what they do and the resources they bring, I would encourage you to get to know them better. They do a lot of support for the city. They manage our grant review committee, which is an amazing effort that they put together. They get volunteers to help review and rank the grants, and they manage that whole process for us so that we have an independent community committee that reviews the grants that you're going to submit. We take that, then we present it to City Council, and City Council determines who's going to get funded. So that's something that they do for us, and they're going to talk more about that later. So they help us with community planning and other issues. So if you don't know the United Way, you're not familiar with them, you should be, okay? So thank you, ladies, and we'll get to you in a little bit. So now we're going to get into the presentation portion of this. After I say one more time, thank you for being here. Our organizations that have worked with us in the past, we are so grateful for you because we could not do the work that you do. It would be impossible for us to impact the community in the ways that you do it. And so we're very thankful for what you do, okay? And then also, for those who are new, we're looking forward to developing a relationship with you in some way to help you meet your goals as you're serving our community. So that's what this is about. How do we serve the Arlington community? So let's see here if I can make this thing work correctly. So our agenda, we're going to go over a funding overview, and our team here at the city is going to handle different parts of this. We'll go through the application process, the evaluation criteria, so you have a sense of how your applications will be evaluated, some post-award expectations, some tips and tricks on the application, and then United Way will come in and share their portion and give you a little bit of training about how to complete the application, okay? So the funding overview. So in general, each year we will get allocation from the federal government. It comes through HUD, and we manage 3 different types of funding. We manage home, CDBG, and ESG funding. And each year we get allocated a certain amount, and we never know what it is. And generally, we don't get a commitment for that amount until we're pretty far through the process because HUD takes a while to get that done. The federal government is not the fastest entity out there, as I'm sure you're aware, and right now they're not moving at all. So, but we typically will give for CDBG, we get about $480,000 that we can use for public services. The city typically gets $3 million or so, but HUD limits what we can spend on public services. And so that's the money we fund you with on CDBG. We also use CDBG to do some infrastructure projects. Like right now, we have a couple streets we're working on. We just finished Marsalis and Slaughter, and we're starting another street. So in our lower income impacted areas, we can use our CDBG to do street projects. We're also using CDBG to work on the public services building on Sanford Street. And that's where the Housing Authority is. That's actually where United Way is office for Arlington. So we're using CDBG to do things like repair the parking lot, to upgrade the air conditioning, to replace the floors, to replace the security. So those are things that we do on the public facility side with CDBG. For ESG, and we have 2 things. We have shelter outreach, and we have rapid rehousing and prevention. And we have that broken apart because, again, HUD limits us to using 60% of our ESG funds for shelter and outreach. And the balance can go to rapid rehousing and prevention. So you can see that we get about $174,000 for shelter and outreach each year, and $85,000 for home rapid rehousing. And then we have our home dollars. In home, we get usually around $1.1 million to $1.2 million per year for home, and that is used for affordable housing. We have our CHODOs, and there's probably both are here. Let's see, we have Donna and Shelley are here from the Housing Channel and Development Corporation of Tarrant County. And for the CHODOs, they're a special organization that does that creates affordable housing in the communities they're within. And HUD requires us to set aside 15% of the home funds for CHODOs so that they can do their projects. Now, we can give them more than that if they have a project that needs more, but we have to set aside 15%. The rest of the home funds we use to support other projects. So, for example, we just recently completed a tax credit project, which is Little Ridge, which I believe there's 59 senior units there, and we put some money in, and we have at least 5 units in that project that are going to be affordable housing for seniors for 20 years. So we can do varying things with that. And actually, Housing Channel just finished a project about a year ago, which is Wind Terrace Cottages. Again, another senior community where they have 12 units, and it's detached, sort of tiny homes kind of concept. And half of those 12, 6 of them are home units. Again, they will be affordable units for 20 years at least. So the home, we're able to commit into our community and create these units that will last for a significant amount of time. Okay. So for community development, block grant funds, CDBG, we talked about this mostly, but again, 15% set aside for public services, and then the rest goes to community development initiatives. So examples of the public services, you guys know them because this is what you guys do, right? But this is it. We have organizations that work with seniors. You know, we do some employment assistance. We have child care programs. As a matter of fact, we're using some CDBG money now to build a new child care facility. And that child care facility will house at least 100 children, and I think we're going to get up to 150 once they get their licensing done. And at least 51% of that will be required to be for low to moderate income children from families that are low mod. We do after-school programs, health care, we do dental care, substance abuse treatment, and education. So those are some of the things that are eligible activities. For ESG, again, we talked about a number of these, but eligible is homeless shelters, rapid rehousing, homeless prevention, and HMIS. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the ESG world, the HMIS is the system that the organizations use to report out on what they do and what their accomplishments are, and they work with the COC to manage and coordinate their efforts. So again, shelter funding can't exceed 60%, and rapid rehousing and homeless prevention can only serve low-income people that are at 30% or less of AMI. So we reach the lowest level of incomes when we're working with our ESG. And again, that's a lot of times we're using that to help move people into shelters, out of shelters, into permanent housing, providing abuse treatment, providing counseling, doing a lot of different things to try to move people from homelessness into housing, into some supportive environment. And then with ESG, there's a match requirement. And generally we say the match is at least 100%, but this year match is 110%. And what match means is the federal government requires us to match the funds that we have with non-federal funds, okay? And that way they ensure that our community brings funds in to help provide support and assistance into the programs we're managing. Okay. So again, everybody who works with ESG has to be signed up and working with the COC, the Tarrant County COC. And then one of the other requirements that everybody needs to know about is that you have to involve at least one homeless person or previously homeless person on a policy-making function, in a policy-making function, either on your board of directors or in some other way that spells out exactly how they're going to participate. They want to make sure that our organizations are getting direct input from people who have lived that life, people who have been there. Okay, so home. So home, again, has to do with creating affordable housing. And so you can see that the things that we can do, acquisition, demolition, rehab, construction of properties. And this is typically for sale or rental to low to moderate income home buyers. And that is up to people who make 80% of the median income in our area. Again, home has a match. It's a 25% match. It's less than ESG, but the same thing, that those funds have to come from non-federal funding sources. And then, as I said before, we have a 15% set aside for the Chodos to help them meet their goals that they're doing as far as creating affordable housing. Okay, now, the funding, so those were our 3 types of funding that we have available. So I assume everybody here is looking to get one of those 3, or maybe even 2 of those 3, depending on how you're applying. But the workshop is today. And the grant application opened this morning at 8 o'clock, okay? So if you go out there, they'll go and tell you how to get there. But if you go out there when you leave here, you'll see the application is open, okay? And we do that through a neighborly, it's a neighborly portal. It's a third-party program that we use to manage this process. The grant review process is going to happen from December to December 20 to January. That's a long process. But it's starting then because your due date is December 5th, and it's critical that you keep that in mind, right? Your due date is December 5th at 5 o'clock. If you submit it at 5:01, it's not good, okay? Matter of fact, the neighborly program will shut down the application at 5 o'clock on December 5th so that you can't submit your application. So start early, stay on top of it. Remember that things happen, technical things on your side, on our side, questions, staff issues, all kinds of things happen. So don't wait till the last minute. We had an organization last year that didn't get their application in, and they had been funded for a number of years, and nobody was happy. But we can't go back and accept the application, right? It was a long-term relationship we had with this organization, but we can't go back, right? So as you look through here, you'll notice that one of the things that happens is that after we go through the grant review process, United Way will give us a report, tell us what they recommend, we will package that, and then we go to City Council. And we'll go to City Council multiple times throughout this process because they're the ones who will make the decision on which organizations to fund and how much we're funding, right? As the grant staff, we don't do that. United Way makes the recommendations. All we do is we make sure that they are eligible activities, and then we package the information and we give it to the council. The council says, here's what we're going to do. So as Troy talked about the council priorities this year, they've changed since last year some. So take that into account as you're looking at this and going through your application. The other thing we have to do is we have to go through a public comment period. And it's a 30-day public comment period where we'll actually post all the information out there. And we'll have, I think we have 2 public meetings during that period where the public can come in and give comments on the applications or on the process or on anything they want about this process. Now, you guys are the public, right? So you can attend any of these meetings. You can attend our council meetings. You can attend the public notification meetings. You can come and participate, right? And it's not necessarily a bad thing to come do that because sometimes the council will have a question and we can't always answer it. And if you're in the room, we can point to you and say, here's the representative, right? So keep that in mind, that if you want, you can come. It's open to all the public, right? So Kent City Council will review it, and we will be working on the 2025 action plan. Now, the action plan a one-year plan that we do to HUD, which tells us where we're spending the money, how we're spending the money, what our goals are. Every 5 years, we have to do a consolidated plan, and we just finished a consolidated plan that we submitted to HUD. And this is the first year of that 5-year plan. So the action plans are breakdown of the consolidated plans for the 5 years, telling what we're going to do during that period. So once the council gets us a recommendation, what they want to do, we take all that information, we go out to the public comment period, then we are packaging it and we're sending it to HUD, and then HUD does the final approval on what we're doing. So you can see that this we have time periods here instead of dates because everything fluctuates a little bit. But one thing that doesn't change is that we have to submit our action plan to HUD by May 15th, okay, of next year. That's our due date. So we have to have everything done and completed by then. And so sometime before then, generally, we're sending you a notification, those who are awarded, and we'll even send people who are not awarded notifications saying, you know, you were awarded this amount, and usually there's all kinds of jargon in there that says, but until HUD approves it, and we have the money, and we sign our contract with HUD, there's no money, right? But we will let you know at some point in this process that you were selected and approved by council to get the funding, right? So then as we go through that, we'll have a subrecipient workshop prior to the beginning of the new year. We will come in, those who are funded will come in, we will train you more on what the requirements are, what you have to do, your monthly reporting, those kinds of things. We'll go over that with you. So then our new year will begin on July 1st, okay? Now, we like to, during the subrecipient workshop, we like to try to sign contracts if they're ready. Now, we don't always have them ready. This next year, hopefully, our process will allow us to have more of them ready. So when you actually come in, if your director, whoever's going to sign, comes into that workshop, we'll have notaries there and you can sign them. So that's our goal. Just depends on how everything flows, right? This year, it did not flow well with notifications from HUD and everything else. So that is our timeline. Again, don't miss December 5th at 5 o'clock, right? It doesn't matter if you had it 100% done and somebody forgot to submit it, we cannot accept it, okay? Now, we're going to go into the application process, and that's where I'm done for this moment. So, Cicely Frazier is our newest grants coordinator, and some of you may know her. And what we do is, for our applicants, for the people who receive funding, we split you up amongst our coordinators. So Cicely's one, Shanna is another one. So raise your hand again, Shanna. So you guys should know Shanna. And you should know who your coordinator is. And if you don't, then reach out and ask, and we'll let you know, because they're the ones who are your first line of contact for issues with monthly draws, submitting draws, or anything else that you have going on. Okay? You got it?
All right, now this is where the magic happens. So we're going to go over the application process. So all of our applications will be submitted through our Neighborly portal. You can find access to that on our website. If you are an existing recipient from us, you already know where that is. If not, you can go online and you can access the portal that way. So the registration is standard. You would provide your email address, your first and last name, and your password to access the system. You will receive a confirmation email from us letting you know that your user identification has been completed and submitted in the system. And then we're ready to go to start the application. So with the new application, you will be provided with 3 categories to input your information, whether or not it's ESG, home, or CDBG. You would also put your organization's name there. The good thing about this process is that we understand that you may have to go in and out of the system as you go along, so you do have the opportunity to save and come back and complete information. I would stress to you that you please save as you go through this process to make sure everything is there. Within Neighborly, you have an opportunity to assign users, and so that could be the primary person that's completing the application or anyone that you foresee may be participating in the completion or the updating of information. You can add users by selecting the icon, add new users. To print the application, use the print application icon and follow the instructions to print. So each application section is printable in Word format or in PDF. Select the printer icon in the upper right corner of the page that you're selecting from. Okay. Applicants should be really careful about a few things. So fully answer all the questions in the application, provide all required documentation, add additional documents as necessary for clarification, upload documents in only a PDF format, and name each document. That is extremely important, to name each document with the organization's name, and be sure that performance measures are fully captured of the services that you are providing to the residents. We want to know exactly what it is that you're doing. There's a lot of hard work going on, and this is your opportunity to tell the story. Double check and triple check your budget documents. I'll say that one again. Please double check and triple check your budget documents. You don't want us to have any questions about how you are funding or using the resources that you currently have. Application requirements. So Richard spoke to this. This is highly, highly important, and I'm not going to drill it, but I'll say it one more time. Friday, December the 5th at 5 p.m. is the deadline. Please anticipate. Neighborly is a very interesting system, and sometimes it does fun things, especially after 2 p.m., I'll be honest. So I would suggest that you kind of take accountability, take account of that when you're working through the program, because it does get a little tired around 2. Okay. Late applications will not be accepted, and paper applications are not allowed. Evaluation criteria. Next, we'll have Miss Sarah. She's our amazing data analyst, and she'll go over the evaluation criteria for us. You're welcome.
Good morning. Okay, I tasked to go over the evaluation criteria. Very brief presentation, just for us to go over what the sections are in the application, what the points are, the scoring. So this is just the criteria, and also just to give you an overview of what the sections are within the applications. I think United Way will come in and give you more information on the sections and how you can best complete those sections, and tips on how to do the application. So this is the points for CDBG and ESG. So a total of 100 points, and those are the sections that have points. I think the A and B is just contact information, and trying to get a bit more information on who the point of contact would be for the program, and things of that nature. And then it goes into C, D, E, and F. So we have the organizational capacity and experience. Over here, they're looking to see, do you have the capacity to run the program that you are applying for? What is the experience that you have, either administering CDBG, ESG funds, or if you've never applied for CDBG or ESG funds, what is your experience with, grant funds, and how do you manage that? So that's basically what that section is looking over. We do advise that you are as extensive as you can be in providing information. Like I said, United Way is going to go into detail with that. Evidence of need for service. We want to know more about the program that you're administering or applying under. We do appreciate when you give us like statistics to support the need and things of that nature. So that's evidence of need for service, a breakdown of the statement of work and the scope of services for the program, and of course, budget and the budget narrative. So we're just looking at what is your program budget and what is the budget for the program that you're applying for. So, like I said, be as elaborate as you can be within these sections, because that allows us to better understand the program, especially if the program is something that's new. And of course, we have a section where you have to add your forms and attachments, and that would be G. So that's the points for the two programs. And I'll move on to home. Home is a little different in terms of the sections. We have the developer organization capacity, project design and development, and then, of course, financial capacity and the budget for the project. And then, of course, section for you to submit the required documentation. So all the three are graded out of 100. I'm going to go over just one part of the application, our goals, outcomes, outputs, and activities. Like I said, United Way does a really great job at kind of providing us some training and resources on how best to define our goals, outcomes, and objectives. But when you're completing the application, you will notice that we do have a preset list of outcomes and outputs. So as you go in the application, you kind of have to pick from the list of outputs and outcomes that we have standardized. And that was just one way for us to kind of standardize our reporting and improve how we kind of show impact and as well as impact evaluation. So the list is extensive, I think, and if by any chance you go in and you're not able to find where you fit, we are very open to adjusting those outputs and outcomes, but I think there's also an option to just say other, and you can put your own description and go ahead and follow that process. So we developed the list based off the different programs that we have worked with in the past. So, like I said, we think the list is extensive, but of course, if you don't fit within the list that we have, feel free to let us know and we'll update it. And you can also use the option to just go ahead and put it under other. So you can make the selection of your outcomes and your outputs and the activities that best align with your goals and objectives. And so this is what it would look like. So I'm just going to run through to show you what, if you were completing the application, what that process would look like. So you will get to a section where you have to select the outcome. We do have a list of outcomes, and you will pick the one that best aligns with your program. So for example, if you picked C, you pick the outcome, improved social conditions for low to moderate income persons / families. You would then go on and select the outputs that align with that outcome. And of course, there's a list there. So you go look over the outputs and then select the one that best aligns with the program. You can select more than one output. So you can have an outcome that has more than one output. So there is an option to add an additional output when you get to that section, but you have to complete the process for the first output. So after the output, you will then move on to selecting the activity for that output. And then once you select the activity for the output, you will then tell us what your targets would be for that output. And so we have it broken down into 4 quarters, and of course you will let us know what the unit of measurement is for that output, whether it's unduplicated persons, whether it's households. I think we also have an option for other if your measurement is not listed on the options that we have, and then it gives you another option to add another activity. So this process then starts over again for you. You then put an activity description and then put the targets in again for that second activity or third activity. So I think you can add up to 5 activities. I think that's that we have it set to. We haven't had any programs that have more than 2 or 3 activities. I think United Way has the most. So we had to make adjustments there. So if by any chance you have any challenges, please feel free to reach out to us. But I think 5 should be sufficient, I think. Okay. And so, like I said, it gives you an option to add another activity and you can start the process over. There will be another prompt depending on whether you want to add another output. There's a prompt for that as well. Okay, so like I said, short and sweet, and I'm out of here. Okay, I'll be handing over to Hyder. He's our senior finance analyst, and he'll go over post-award expectations and requirements.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Hyder Akram, and I serve as the Senior Grants Accounting Analyst here in Finance at Grants Management, together with Ms. Catherine Donaldson, who is our Program Specialist. We manage the financial reporting and accounting for all the federal grants administered here at the city. So I'm going to go over first our key responsibilities here at Finance. So our finance team manages the accounting operations that link grants management with, I like to say, the 3 primary stakeholders. First being the subrecipients. We administer all financial activity for every subrecipient case in Neighborly, ensuring compliance with federal grant requirements. Second would be internally within the city. So we handle all internal and grant financial reporting and accounting operations here internally in the city within the city's ERP. And thirdly would be with HUD. We oversee drawdowns in our system with HUD to ensure timely federal reimbursement to the city, given that our grants are cost reimbursable. We work initially, meaning that the funds are provided to subrecipients by the city and then drawn down from our grants with HUD. The next slide provides a visual overview of the complete draw request lifecycle. So here's our draw request lifecycle. While many of you are already familiar with the process, we want to highlight the critical deadlines and steps involved. The draw requests are due by the 10th of each month. Between the 10th and the 20th, your grant coordinators complete a comprehensive first level review focusing on contract and programmatic compliance. Once complete, requests come to us at the finance team for the second review, and we aim to get that in by the 24th. At this stage, we validate all supporting documentation, ensuring alignment with approved budgets and confirm eligibility of costs. Upon approval, the second approval, the invoices are routed to accounts payable for processing. Payments are typically issued within 3 to 4 business days, with disbursements occurring in the final week of the month. There are 2 key process pillars that we'd like to highlight. The first being timely payment processing. We recognize that consistent cash flow is vital for service delivery. That's why payment turnaround is one of our top operational priorities. The second being process enhancements. Through the use of Neighborly, we're able to streamline the invoicing process, eliminating manual redundancies to provide a more transparent system for tracking reimbursement statuses. Just to summarize the top tips and tricks to remember and take away here. Invoices must be submitted by the 10th of each month to ensure timely payment. All subrecipients must be set up for ACH direct deposit. This is now mandatory. If you are not yet set up, kindly please get with your coordinators to complete this setup. Neighborly remains the designated system for submitting reimbursement requests. Grant coordinators should always be your first line of contact for any questions or issues. And above all, clear communication is essential to a smooth financial partnership. If you have any finance-related questions or need any additional support throughout the program year, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Ms. Catherine. Our contact information will be available before heading out. Before handing it over to United Way, I'd just like to ask if there are any questions.
Yes, it'll be posted on the webpage, and we will correct that slide. So I want to point out a couple other things very quickly. Is one, all this information is on our webpage, and if this has recorded correctly, this presentation will be on our webpage also, so you can go back and rewatch it. So crossing our fingers that it's recorded correctly, and that works. The other thing is that there are some new things about the applications. Okay, so if you've done this for many years, pay attention to what you're doing because some things have changed, and it primarily in ESG and CDBG. One of the things is you saw that A and B were not on that list of sections on the scoring, and that's because that is your general information. The new section is Section B. I don't know if everybody can hear me. Is Section B, and we're trying to get more information about who your contacts are, because when we have transitions in our staff or somebody's out, it's not always clear who the contacts are, and we can find who they are, but we're not always sure who the right person to go to if we're dealing with another coordinator who has to step in. So we have set it up so now you can give us your contacts, you can explain what their role is, and give us any input that you want about them so that we know who to go to in case we have a transition, in case somebody's out, in case there's an emergency, we know what to do. So that Section B is new to our application. Not scored, because I don't think we need to score you on your contacts, right? The other thing is in the financial section, you'll want to watch that because we've made some changes there to try to capture more about your budgets. One of the things that was happening in the past was that we have a place where you tell us how much your budget is, how much CDBG is, and then how much your other funding is and what the status of the other funding is. But we don't get that filled out a whole lot. And so it looks like you have a program that's a $150,000 program, and you're asking for a certain amount of CDBG. Well, where's the other money coming from, right? So we know you can't run that program on our money. So what we have done is we've tried to enhance it so that you can go in and now give us your other sources so that when we go in and look at this, we can look at your CDBG money, your ESG money, and compare that to your other budget, and we can say, yeah, that approximately equals your total program budget, right? So your non-CDBG plus your CDBG should equal your program budget. So that's a little bit different, okay? Another thing is we may have some developers here who are applying for ESG for their project. And if you are, make sure you talk to me afterwards. And it's quirky how we do this in the application process, so I want to make sure we talk about it. So if you're one of those one or two people who may be doing that, let us know. So any other application questions or just questions in general about what we're doing here? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, I'm so sorry. My name is Ashley Dennis, I'm with D Inc.
Okay.
Process. Does the Neighborly app allow you to with the other?
Unfortunately, no, and I don't know if everybody heard that, but the question was if you are applying for CDBG and ESG, can we combine those or copy or move it over? And the answer is no. It's really different funding sources, and it's reviewed differently. So if you're doing application where you're doing both of them and they need to tie together, make sure you talk about that in the applications, right? Now, a lot of the stuff you're putting into each application is going to be the same. You know, your general information about your organization, and if it's the same program, that'll be the same, and you can copy that over. But because we're going to analyze that and assess that differently, we don't have them combined, or they're not combinable. Again, make sure that you're telling us in your narratives what you're going to do with those funds, if they tie together. Now, we have some organizations that get both shelter ESG and rapid rehousing ESG, right? And those do go into the same application, because the same funding source. But they do talk about within their application how they're using those funds separately. Does that answer for you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Any other questions? No, I'm going to say no, I don't. So if you're a developer wondering what our interest rate is, then we will have to negotiate that, okay? Okay. So probably one of the things we would do in that situation is we would look at your project and see what was necessary, right, to make that project financially feasible and to serve the clientele we need to serve, okay? Not that I'm aware of. I'm sorry, the question is what is the interest rate on the home funds? So for those of you who don't know, again, the home is used for affordable housing. Sometimes developers will come in and they'll get a home fund grant, or they'll get a loan, and we can structure it a lot of different ways so that that project is affordable. And it's based upon the project underwriting and the project needs, and actually the number of units we're going to get out of that project, right? So that would be something that you would present to us and make a recommendation, and then we would negotiate that out. Other questions in general? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Years ago, we did.
Okay, so the question is if you have an application with us already and we've approved you, do you have to reset everything up? And I believe the answer is no. You should be able to log in under your current login, and what you will see there is you will see a list of the new applications that you can select, okay?
So we just changed the focus of what we're doing.
Right,
with-
right.
With that application, the new application.
The new application, you would, if you're doing something different or changing your program, yes, just changing your new application. Because the applications, the year-to-year applications do not tie together, and we don't assess them that way. What we do look at is we do look at your performance in the last year, right? If you're not performing, you've failed audits or anything like that, then you may have issues. But we're going to look at your performance, and that's part of what the council will use to rank the applications, okay? So if you're not meeting your goals, you're not timely, not those kinds of things, we disclose that to the council, and the council uses that to make decisions. Okay? Other questions? Almost, one more. So there's something new this year around questions. Oh. There it is. So in order to be more transparent and to be fair, one of the things we're asking you to do is that if you have a question about your application, submit it to the grants email box. And what we will do is we will take that, we'll monitor it daily, we'll take that, we will create a response, send it to you, and then we will post it on our webpage, okay? So that everybody who's applying for the application, for any of the funding, has the same information to use. Right? Now, we're not going to answer questions about how you describe something or how you write your narrative or how you detail anything. But if you have technical questions or questions about what the meaning of a question is, we're glad to share that with you. Okay? Now, we want you to use that mailbox. If you're having a technical issue where Neighborly's not working or something's not happening, call us. Okay? Let us know, because if you're having that problem, somebody else probably is too. So let us know on those things. But again, we're going to post these questions on the webpage, the answers to them on our facts page. And I believe you have a facts sheet that was printed and given to you, and that's sort of a starter sheet. We want to make sure we're being transparent and providing the same information for all organizations. Does that make sense? Okay, good. It's your responsibility as an organization to check that page, to see if it's updated, see if there's anything out there that may be helpful to you. Other questions? So, all right, well, we're going to hand this over to Shanna Snyder with United Way, and they're going to go through and they're going to give you some more information about how they look at the applications and how they're going to process them and work with them. And they're going to give you some important pointers on it. So listen, okay? I mean, pay attention to it because they're the ones who are going to review this in their committee, right? So how do we, I didn't set this up, so I'm not sure how we, oh, I did this right into it. Yeah, I did.
Okay, hello. You guys doing okay? Yes? Yeah? Do you need to move around a little bit? Been sitting for a little while. So we actually are going to move around a little bit this time. I'm going to do a little something new. Okay, so I'm going to flip the question that Richard asked earlier. He asked, who has applied? Who has not applied? Who's first time CDBG ESG home? Are you guys feeling okay? A little overwhelmed? Like, this is a daunting application. There are a lot of pieces to it, but we are going to give some tips and tricks. We're going to talk through some best practices. I have a stellar team here with me. Alex here is our Grant Review Committee Chair. This is her third year to chair it. She has been reviewing since 2019. Is that right? Mm-hmm. So she knows a thing or two. And Susan, welcome. We are so happy. This is her first year to be our co-chair, and we could not be more delighted about it. She brings so much experience. So as we go through this, we're going to talk through the different sections. We're going to do a little activity. We'll have some Q&A at the end, and then, of course, I'll stick around if you have any other questions after that. The other person missing today is Caitlin. Who knows Caitlin? Lots of hands. Yes, Caitlin runs our resource sharing group. And so if you are not familiar with the resource sharing group, we meet on the first Wednesday of every month. It is an opportunity for all of the nonprofits to come together. Hey, Jimmy, I know that Jimmy comes there. And so if you haven't heard of it, I would love to tell you more about it. It is just another opportunity for all of us to be in the same space together to figure out how we can work to serve this community together. Okay, so let's get started and see if we can get you out of here sooner than within an hour. Our role. So United Way, just to clarify, United Way does not actually make the recommendations. Our role here is to facilitate the review process. So we recruit volunteers from your community. All of our volunteers have to be connected with Arlington in some way. They live here, they work here, they care about this community. So we oversee that volunteer recruitment process, and this year we have like 55 applications already. And y'all, that is saying something because they review these applications over the holidays. Yeah, for real. Like, Merry Christmas, family. I have to go review some grant applications. Like, they really, truly care. It is just such an incredible group of humans that care so much about this community. And then we, United Way, Caitlin and I, produce a final report based on those reviews. We have a consensus meeting at the end once all of the reviews are submitted independently. They review independently. We will have a consensus meeting so we can talk through all of their feedback and kind of get a bigger understanding. And then we compile that into a report and a document for the city of Arlington. Each organization has one page with all of those comments and that feedback summarized that you can ask for at any time. So if you receive the grant, you can ask for it. If you don't receive a grant, you can ask for it. Alex is going to talk a little bit about that later and why that's important. Yeah. The other purpose of having a committee of volunteers do this is to preserve the integrity of this review process. That way there is no one organization competing for these funds that can influence it. So we do a deep dive into the applicants. We make sure that they are vested here in Arlington, and then we also ensure that there are no conflicts of interest. So there is a ton of work that goes into it. I have very many Excel files. It is a heavy lift, and I'm so happy to do it. Okay, parts of the grant proposal. Here, the executive summary is a little bit different. That is your organizational capacity and experience. In this grant application, we're going to talk about the executive summary, needs assessment, your program description, budget, evaluation, and then all of that supplemental documentation. So let's start with that. Organizational capacity and experience. This is where you get to sell you. This is about you, your organization, who you are, what you do, what you've done, and what you want to do. When I think about this summary, I think of my high school teacher who would be thrilled that I'm talking about her so many years later. I remember in high school, my English teacher, she just really stuck with me. She was like, Shanna, if you don't hook them in that first paragraph, they do not care about your story. Super stuck with me. And that's what your executive summary is. You got to hook them, sell yourself, tell your story. You are here because you care about something and you really want to make an impact. Don't be shy about that. So all about you. I would also say try to keep it concise. These are volunteers reviewing over their holiday break. They have quite a few grants to review. So we don't want to lose them. We want to capture them. You want to get their attention. And then you move into your needs assessment. And your needs assessment is about the community. So your executive summary is about you. Your needs assessment is about who you want to serve, what you want to do, why there's a problem. So that's where you really capture that why. You're highlighting the issues in the community that you uniquely can solve. And then you want to really capture the heart of people, get to their emotions, get to their scientific brains with some data to go with those emotions, because you need both. And then just like, this is why you want them to be part of that solution. Sell your purpose. So by the time your reviewer is done reading your executive summary and your needs assessment, they should have a very clear idea of what you're going to do, why you're doing it, and what to expect in the rest of the application. Ready? Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. I already gave you the overview. Yes, so to go through them, describe the problem, not your organization. Use recent data. We'll talk about that some more. We also have some resources at the end of this. There's an entire slide with some resources for data. There's tons of data out there. You don't have to make it up. Like, it exists. Connect with your heart, explain your services, and how you are going to impact the population, and use easy and concise language to describe your solution. This is important. Your reviewers don't live and work in this space every day. They are volunteers from across the community. So if you're using language that is specific to your organization or your sector, your work, you might lose them. So think about, how would I explain this to my 5-year-old? Think about that, and if they can't understand it, then your reviewers might get lost in it, and we don't want to lose them. We want to capture their attentions and their hearts. Okay, now it really is time for me to hand it over.
Okay, so this really gets into what Shanna was saying about making it intelligible. One of the key things that comes up in consensus meetings all the time is confusion. And the consensus meetings are great because it's where we try and reduce the confusion. And I work in the nonprofit space, and I still run into this where I don't know what your organization or what the purpose of the program is at the end of reading your application. So it seems like we're joking when we say, does your 5-year-old understand this if you were to read it out loud? But that's a really good description. So someone who is not working for your organization, a cousin, a mom, a friend, run it by them, because if they don't understand, your reviewer won't understand either, because maybe they don't work in the nonprofit space at all, but they live and work in this community. So we want to make sure that your mission is translatable. The other thing about the program, not just describing it, but how is it being run? How is it actually getting done? Do you have volunteers who are tutoring students, or do you have hired full-time professionals? How does your reviewer understand what you're actually doing with these dollars, okay? So one of the big things, and we joked about the math, and listen, I'm a CPA, so I am well aware that most people do not enjoy math, but how many people in this room own a computer or have a work computer? Fabulous, you don't have to be good at math. I promise you, there is no hard math. It is addition, it is subtraction. If you're very fancy, maybe you have some division if you're doing some metrics and percents. So one, you can put stuff in Excel, right? Excel will do the addition for you. And if you're like, man, I'm afraid of Excel, I can't do formulas, you want to know what's amazing? ChatGPT can tell you how to do the formulas. Now, don't give them your client data, but you can say, I'm getting this error message and I don't know why, what's wrong with my formula. And me, I'm a CPA, I live in Excel. I do that all the time, okay? You don't need to be good at math, I promise. The other thing is pay attention to whole budget, organization budget versus program budget, okay? The other thing is don't be too general, particularly if something is unusual. So maybe I'm using nice, easy round numbers. Maybe you have $70,000 in snack costs and you're like, this is an after-school program for tutoring. Why are you spending $70,000 in snacks? Well, hello, children coming after school are hungry. I'm hungry by 3 o'clock. So be specific too, because we want to understand what that line purpose is for. And the more maybe unusual it seems, the more explanation you should put in. They talked about supplemental documentation. If something is more unusual in your budget and you feel that the numbers alone are not telling the story, you can add a supplemental memo. There is no rule against adding more substance to your budget. And I know that everyone hates budgets. It's the most stressful time of year aside from maybe grant time. But have someone who has never looked at your budget before, maybe your office admin, maybe your spouse, probably not your dog, but someone in your life, look over it and does it make sense? Does the math? Did you miss a decimal point? I once was looking at an error and was like, what on earth is going on? Finally realized the decimal point was in the wrong place, and that was why this $36,000 budget was like 36 million. You know, those are things that your brain is too good at autocorrecting, okay? All right. This is another place where people get really tripped up. So the evaluation process is really saying, how does your organization tell if the program was effective? Now, this might be really simple for you. You might have a questionnaire, you might do a poll, you might look at performance metrics, something like that. But this is where reviewers get confused because they don't understand the questions you're asking or the purpose of the questions, and they don't understand what those questions mean to you as an organization. The other thing is, if you are serving a multilingual population and you only provide the example form in English, make a note that you have it available in Spanish and Vietnamese or whatever other language you're offering these things in, because that shows that your program is reflective of the community. Don't just assume that we know that you have everything in multiple languages, or maybe you have an on-site interpreter or an interpreter service, something like that. The other thing is, what does the data mean from these evaluations that you're doing? How does your organization use the evaluations to tweak the program, okay? There are a lot of confusion points here. So if you haven't already asked for your prior year grant review or feedback sheet, ask for it. Because if there was confusion on a point, or someone really didn't understand, or you lost points on your evaluation section, look and see why. Maybe people just didn't understand how the organization is using the data, because again, these are, very diverse backgrounds of people reviewing the applications. They might have no idea what your organization does or the community purpose they're serving. Okay, so I talked about supplemental documentation. If there is an optional document, like a referral from a community member or an endorsement from an organization community that you partner with a lot, or you got a fabulous write-up in the Arlington Today or something like that, you can upload that. A lot of reviewers were really surprised last year. I think there was a spot for optional, community endorsements from community members, stakeholders. And very few people did that. But the ones who did, that's powerful. And it doesn't need to be a lot, but that can be really powerful. Also, we run into this every year. Someone will upload one document. Sometimes it's supplemental, sometimes it's required. And they lose a lot of points because no one can open it. a lot of times, especially if you're using these remote servers, you don't realize that it's really a link to a document, or there was an embedded link, and all of a sudden when it's opened up, no one can open it, or no one outside your organization can open it. So if you have a personal email or an outside, none of this is, proprietary, send it outside of your network and make sure that you can open it. It's one of the reasons why we request PDFs. The other thing they said about labeling documents, listen, we're doing this with a glass of wine, we're escaping the holiday madness, and then we're having to look through 50 different documents, and it's like that long file name from your scanner. That's just mean, right? Like, don't be mean to your reviewers. Okay, so common difficulties. One is using data effectively, and I'll talk about that because obviously I am the numbers girl. And the other, we've got outputs and outcomes. And Susan, for those of you who don't know Susan Van Meter, she works for the North Texas Community Foundation, so she is in the grant space a lot. So I'm obviously going to let the expert speak to this. But when we're using data effectively, it needs to be relevant and recent. I cannot tell you every year we get applications that have data from 10, 20 years ago. Well, there have been a lot of changes just in this past year, as we all know. So make sure that you're using recent data, but also make sure that it's local. If you're doing all of DFW, but your client population is Arlington, is that meaningful to use the entire DFW? Now, maybe it is, because maybe you're saying, hey, 76104 has a much higher mortality rate than the rest of Tarrant County, and here's why, and here's what our grant is doing to help alleviate that, right? But if you don't say what the data means for your organization or how it's impacting your community, then it is not very effective. The other thing is you don't need to give every single piece of data ever, right? You are giving what are the concise, most powerful, impacted data. Now, here's another fun thing that you can do. Aside from the resources on where you get data, everyone here that's a nonprofit files a 990, right? And a lot of the 990s, especially on their Schedule O, will tell you, the impact, and will use data points, and that is public information. So if you are trying to figure out, maybe what are some other organizations in the space, where are they getting data, like how are they presenting it, you can cheat. It's an open book test, right? So all of these metrics that we're giving today, this is all directly linked to the application. We also do training with the reviewers so that they're using not just their love, maybe they know your organization and they love it, they're basing their review on the application. And so y'all are working from the same test answer key, okay? So you can do this, I promise. If you don't have good data, it is time to get on Google and search your issues and look at some of these resources. We have even more at the end, but I promise you, if you don't have data in your application, it makes it weaker. Because the passion is there. Everyone is passionate about their nonprofit. No one in this room is in nonprofits for the money. Not a single one of us, okay? So you've got to do more than just the heart. You need the heart and the data that supports why your heart is in that spot, okay? So now, here is one of our most tripped up, tricky things that we see on applications. And even one of the reasons I asked Susan and Shanna to take point on this is I also get tripped up on outputs and outcomes, okay? So do not feel bad that you are tripping up on this. And with that, Susan is going to educate all of us.
I'm going to do my best to educate all of you. All right, so I like to move around when I talk. If I move away from the mic, can you all hear me? I think you have to be at the mic for the recording. Oh, like the recording. You guys?
We're just going to have to shift around a lot.
All right. All right, you might see my arms waving about then. All right, so outputs and outcomes. To really understand the difference and how you use these is to know that they're actually a part of something greater called the logic model. Anybody in here familiar with the logic model? Okay, yeah, I'm seeing hands raised. Yes, perfect. So please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm also going to simplify this as much as possible because I know some of you in here did not go to school to be a grant writer. You are in this work because you have passion and love for what you do. You never thought you'd be writing 25, 50-page reports and applications to do the work that you love. So let's keep this really simple. So outputs and outcomes are only 2 out of 5 parts of what's called the logic model. And the logic model is essentially a story or a picture of how your program is supposed to work. That's it. It's as simple as that. Thank you, I appreciate that. So that, like I said, there are 5 parts to the logic model. The first part of the logic model is called your inputs. The second part are your activities. Third part are your outputs. Fourth part is your outcomes. And then the fifth part is your impact. For those of you that are familiar with the logic model, you will know that your fourth and fifth, the outcome and impact, oftentimes get grouped together because it's talking about the impact that your program has, and sometimes, sorry, see what happens? Sorry, guys, getting away. You will know that that fourth and that fifth area of outcomes and impacts oftentimes gets put together because it is your short-term, your midterm, and your long-term results from your program. So starting with your impacts, these are the resources that you as a person and your organization are investing into your program. So that's the first part of your inputs. Then you have your activities. That's what your program does. Everybody knows what your programs do. Then you have your outputs. This is that thing that people get tripped up on. Your outputs, this is what's produced. So these are the direct results of those activities that you do for your program or in your program. Then you have your outcomes. So your outcomes, these are going to be immediate, small changes that happen because of your program. And then lastly, you have your impacts, and those are going to be those long-term changes that occur because of your program. So I'm in funding. I also review grants almost every day, and I get tripped up on this. So I decided to simplify this even more. I love to cook, and I decided to go to my friend ChatGPT and say, help me create an analogy using my love of cooking and the logic model. So what I did, and this is what ChatGPT gave back to me, was I'm thinking about making a stew. And the input part of me making a stew is going to be my pots and pans. It's going to be the ingredients, the money that I have to invest into those ingredients that I have to buy. It's going to be my utensils, my cutting board. It's going to be me as the chef. These are the inputs or the things that I'm investing into my stew. Have I lost you yet? Everybody with me? Are we cooking along in this analogy? All right, so then we have our activities for making this stew. So I have the dicing of my veggies, all right? I have the searing of my cubes of meat. I'm gonna be adding those spices and herbs. I'm going to be sauteing my onions and my veggies. I'm gonna be throwing everything in the pot, putting my broth in and simmering it. So those are my activities. My output, and this is super simple, my output is a beautiful pot of beef stew. That's it. That is all my output is on this one. My outcome is I have a family that has full bellies now, satisfied full bellies. I have improved my cooking skills. I have leftovers so that I can have lunch for the rest of the week. And then I also have reduced my reliance on takeout food this week. So I'm not going to go out to lunch every day this week because I have my leftovers from my stew that I made. Those are my outcomes. So my impact, so think long-term on impact. My impact is going to be I'm developing healthier eating habits because I'm eating out less and I'm cooking at home more. I'm getting greater confidence in my cooking skills because I am cooking at home more. And then teamwork because my husband is my sous chef. And we are growing closer because we are cooking together in the kitchen. So I wanted to break it down just a little bit more because even I get confused and I'm in this every single day. So I'm going to get a feel here. Do we think we can do a big group activity around the room? Everybody feel comfortable with getting up and moving? I'm seeing lots of heads shaking yes. Okay. So what I'm going to do is we are going to work on a project together going through the logic model. All right. I want us to come up with a sample nonprofit scenario. So think about different nonprofits that are out there in the world. We've got, let me see here, throw out some nonprofits for me. Tutoring, okay, tutoring, what else? Arlington Urban Ministries, I like tutoring. You were the first one that spoke up. Are you okay if I use your example? Okay, so children's tutoring? Okay, let's write that down. So we're gonna do a children's tutoring program. All right, I'm gonna break you up into groups, and you'll see around the room, I have large Post-it notes that are up around the room. So I'm gonna come over and I'm gonna give people markers and break you up into groups, and we're gonna walk through creating a free children's tutoring program and go through what our inputs are, what our activities are, what our outputs, what our outcomes, and what our impacts are gonna be for this children's tutoring program. All right? So I'm just gonna come and section you off, all right? That means I'm gonna be away from the microphone.
Y'all be careful of the coffee cups as we're getting up.
All right, everybody grab your sections or get in your sections. You've got somebody who has a marker. And our sample scenario is going to be a free children's tutoring program. So we are going to have to talk out loud because people who are in outcomes and outputs are going to have no idea what our activities are to be able to establish those outputs and outcomes. So we are going to have to talk out loud. So we know our sample scenario is a free children's tutoring program. So thinking about what our inputs are, that's our team over here to the left, what are the things that we have as an organization or as people in the organization? What do we have that we can invest into our children's tutoring program? Can we throw out some ideas over there? Oh, I see her feverishly writing. This is beautiful. Look at her go. Yeah, throw me a couple answers out over there. Okay, we have the children that are involved, okay. Say it again. Okay, we have the facility, the building where the tutoring is taking place. Curriculum, tutors, volunteers, the supplies, technology, fantastic. Partnerships, snacks. Oh, that's the important part because that's going to bring them back every time. Food, for sure. Okay, perfect. Those are great inputs. Okay, so now as we've said that out loud in your groups, start thinking about your section. All right, so let's head over to activities. I see someone over there feverishly writing as well. What's one of the activities that you were thinking about together as they were reading off the inputs? I'm looking for maybe an activity or two that you guys are coming up with. Okay, so to develop or procure the curriculum, okay. Subject matter experts. Perfect, hands-on activities, perfect. All right, so let's move over to outputs. So outputs, that's the finished meal. All right, what is an output of our children's after school, or excuse me, our free children's tutoring program? So I heard increase in their grades. Would anyone agree or disagree with that? I heard outcomes. That would actually be an outcome. That's okay. You're doing good. This is what it's for. This is exactly what this is for. Yes. There it is. Perfect. The volunteer hours that you're logging. That's correct. Yep, the number of snacks that you have provided. Sure, that works. And then I think one of the most important things is you've created a program that you're going to be able to duplicate semester after semester, year after year. All right? All right, good job on the outputs. How about outcomes? How are you guys doing over there? That's okay. That's okay. I'll take your ideas. What are your outcomes? Grades, okay. Relationships, teamwork. Confidence. Independence, learning. Improvement in skills. And the ability to help others because you've gained that confidence in your skills. All right, good job, outcomes. How about impacts? How are we doing over there? All right, throw some impacts that you guys came up with my way.
So graduation rates improved.
Graduation rates improved, good job.
Student confidence.
Student confidence. Increased engagement in life and the community. More. Uh-huh.
And then just overall.
Oh, that's really good. All right, I need to figure out how to say what you just said. Say it one more time for me because I want to make sure everybody can hear this. Elevation of focus. Because we've also now addressed food insecurity. Nice, good job, you guys. See, look, you guys just did the impact. You guys just did outcomes. You guys just did outputs, activities, inputs. You now understand the logic model. So good job. All right, everybody have a seat.
So everyone feels amazing about that part of the application now, right? You won't be as confused, and hopefully your grant reviewer won't be as confused either when they're trying to figure out what you mean by outputs for your program.
And for those of you that are familiar with the logic model, you'll also know that the outputs, and my friend over here just reminded me of this, the outputs are the one things that are measurable. All right. So what I've done is, because we did this activity here, I went ahead and put an example activity in the slides, just in case you weren't able to be here. And I'm saying this for the people that may be viewing this as a recording. There is a sample activity that I threw in here so that you could understand what we just did. And then lastly, why does any of this even matter? So as a funder, which is what I do every day, I know that you all are doing phenomenal work out in the community. I have no doubt that that's what you're doing. But what I need to know is if the money that I've invested in you is impacting those that you serve, and how is it impacting those people? So that is what's really most important in making sure that you make that case in your application, that the work that you are doing impacts people, and this is how it's going to impact people. So definitely don't be afraid to throw some heart in there, as Shanna said, as you're doing these applications. And I look forward to reading all of your applications. Yes? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is a great question. So the question was, okay, maybe last year on the application we didn't do so well on measuring. And so we looked at our grant review comments, and we're so awesome, and figured out how to do a better job measuring it. So the question is, there's a part of the application where you're supposed to show what those what the outputs were. And if you missed a target or last year's target doesn't look as comparable to this year's target because you've really updated how you're measuring the outcomes and what the outputs are, that's a great time to add a supplemental document and explain how that changed year over year, why it changed. And people love seeing improvement, okay? And failing something or not hitting a metric that you said, hey, last year we said that we're gonna use this money to serve 65 kids, but we only serve 55, that is an opportunity for you to explain why. Now, maybe it is just because inflation. If you are feeding children, everyone here is well aware from your own grocery budget or the people you're serving that it costs a whole lot more this year than it did last year or 2 years ago. So it's not necessarily a bad thing for your application just because you didn't hit that metric. And it's not a bad thing if your metrics aren't comparable because you made it better. But it can hurt you if you don't explain those things. So yes, and this and because. Explain what you did. You improved a process. That is something to celebrate, not beat yourself up about. So, wonderful question. Thank you. Okay, so top tips from reviewers. Like Shannon said, I've been sitting in consensus meetings and reviewing grants since 2019. This is the first volunteer thing I did when I moved to DFW. So, I'm invested. One of the things is stick to your mission and use clear metrics. So, if your mission and what you want to use the funds for doesn't line up with the CDBG and ESG and home requirements, don't try to finagle it. Maybe that isn't the grant for you. Or maybe you think that you really do fit under those pillars, but you're having trouble figuring out how it connects to your mission. That might be time to brainstorm with other people in your organization of how do I explain this so it makes sense? Clear metrics. I cannot emphasize this enough. I don't know your program or anything about the population that you serve the way that you do. I just don't. And reviewers are actually not required to do any Googling to figure out what you're talking about. They might just say, all right, well, I've got 6 applications to review and each one takes me 1 to 3 hours. I have no idea what this person is talking about. I Googled and I still don't know. Again, have someone read behind you and make sure that they understand what on earth you are talking about so that we know the fabulous work that y'all are doing. The other thing to keep in mind is I would say about half the reviewers every year are returning reviewers. Okay. Now, obviously, certain things you are going to copy and paste, right? You know, your contact info, maybe your mission statement. However, if you copy and pasted and you didn't update it, or there's typos from last year that are still in there, or you got review comments last year that were like, we have no idea what this person is talking about on their outputs and outcomes, and it's the same thing as last year, that just shows a certain lack of, I don't care. Or maybe I was doing it really last minute. And I know it's a ton of work for these grant dollars, and it's an increasingly small pool that is increasingly competitive, right? However, this is one of the only grant processes in the Metroplex where whether you are denied or accepted for funding, you get a grant review sheet. And so we compile those comments based off of all of the reviewers, and we record in mine, privately, this is never shared anywhere, it's United Way only, the consensus meeting for additional comments and questions that come up and things that are addressed. We obviously anonymize and condense for clarity so it's not 6 pages of people saying the same thing. That is such a valuable tool whether or not you get funding, because no other grant process says, hey, by the way, we're going to tell you why you didn't, like why you were scored the way you were scored. We're going to give you feedback. And we emphasize to reviewers that it is constructive feedback. So it's not just, this sucks, because that's not helping anyone, right? No one also wants to read that. That's kind of mean. It's constructive. It will help show you what you did well and maybe what you could improve on a little bit. I feel like I know I'm saying this a lot, but keep it simple. And the application, because it's multi-sections, multi-screens, and people don't necessarily have everything open at once, if you use an acronym in one section and define it, when you use it again in another section, define it. If you're using a term that is technical and specific to your industry, define it. You can just put it in parentheses. Keep it short and sweet. Do not get overly technical. Use the language you need to explain it. pretend again, remember, picture your 5-year-old. If your 5-year-old understands it, wonderful. If not, maybe we need to rejigger it a little bit. We talked about this before, but explain past mistakes and how you've improved. Mistakes are not the enemy. Everyone makes mistakes. Literally everyone. I've made mistakes even today already, and the day is young. Mistakes are learning opportunities, especially if you take the time to explain it. Proofread, proofread, proofread. Your brain does an amazing job auto-correcting. It's one of the great things about human brains, and you know all of those "are you a human or robot" things you click? It's because our brains do fabulous jobs autocorrecting and synthesizing information, which means you cannot catch your own typos. And you shouldn't just have one person proofread, have 2 people proofread. Check your math. Remember, everyone here owns a calculator. I promise you don't have to actually be good at math. You can use your fingers. You can use the internet. Do not do the math just yourself. And again, please utilize past submission feedback. We take a lot of time to put that together for y'all because it is such a valuable tool. If you didn't request it, they are kept on file. Request it from your grant contact at the city. And then final, I swear we're almost done. We're going to do a few last do's and don'ts to just keep in mind as you go through this from our grant writing experts over here.
Okay, really, we're almost done. There's like 2 more slides, that's it, and then we can go about our day. Okay, so do read through the application today, because today is the time of publication. December 5th sounds like it's a long way away. Y'all, it is not. We have Thanksgiving. People are going to have holidays. That is right around the corner, and this is a daunting application, especially if you wait until the last minute. And so like the team said, there are some changes to it this year. So read it all the way through at the time of publication. So give it a read before the end of the week today. That way you can make that plan for how you are going to tackle it. Thank you. Do contact the city if you have questions, especially if there is something that is different from last year and you don't understand it. So they are here. They are lovely. And so do contact them if you have questions. That can only work to your benefit for sure. And then love the idea, like so wonderful that if somebody does reach out with questions, it'll go up on the website. That way, if somebody is asking it, I'm sure that multiple people are. So you're not only doing yourself a service, you're actually going to help other people. So,
And it'll be anonymous.
yeah.
They won't be like, hey, this person had no idea what that meant, okay? So don't be shy about asking questions just because it's going on the website.
Do read the entire proposal before beginning to write. And this one is so that you aren't doing a bunch of work up here that then you have to redo it down here. This is to save you time and effort. So give that a whole read through and then get started on it. And then do tackle each section separately. Each section has a different purpose. And so you want to lean into that purpose for each section, and the best way to do that is to tackle it separately. So these are some of the things that we have seen that have really worked with this particular application process in the past. And now I'm going to pop it over for some do nots.
I'm not a negative Nancy, I promise. As they said before, try not to copy and paste everything from your previous application. Be mindful of what the question is asking and see if what you're trying to copy and paste actually really answers that question. So just double check that work. Don't guess on anything that you don't understand. If you don't understand it, these city folks are here. They will be happy to walk through that with you and help you understand whatever the question might be. There are plenty of things that I get tripped up on, and I wish I had the city folks in my pocket to be able to contact when I have questions. Don't forget to have somebody else review your application. This is something that I don't know, so the city might be able to answer this question for me. Is there a collaboration feature on the application where multiple people can work on the application together? Okay, they're going to find that out for you guys. Okay, they're going to test that and find out to see if multiple people can work on that application together. Yes, ma'am. Okay, there you go.
And I'm sorry if this is already on the facts page, but is that when we're putting things in bullets and stuff, does that matter?
So if I am writing, let's say I'm writing my response in a Word document and I have bullets, if I want to copy and paste that, will those bullets also carry over? Is that what you were saying? Okay, I see a head shaking no, and I also see, what did you say? The city is saying it should, and I have somebody over here who's done it before who's saying no. It's not going to bold, it's not going to underline. There are some formatting limitations. Using all caps, and because you cannot bold is a good way to use that. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to reiterate things that are being said out there. You can print out your application. There you go, print it out and read it before submitting. And that way you could also share that printout with whoever is reviewing it within your organization or family, friend, whoever it is. And then, of course, don't wait to submit it till the last second. As a funder, I'm actually the one that manages the grant portal for my organization. And it can be really hard at that last second to answer a phone call or an email from someone who is trying to get it in at 4:55, and I may be on the phone with another nonprofit with an issue, and I may not be able to answer and help everyone. So I know that that's also for the city as well. So just make sure that you don't wait till the last minute to submit that information. And again, if those questions come up, make sure you reach out to your contacts here at the city so they can help you. Yes, sir. Ah, you want that one?
I will take that one. Generally, unless there are egregious. So the question is, how do reviewers score if the formatting gets really bad when it's put into Neighborly? One, that's why printing it can be important to see how it's going to look. You don't get negative points taken off. There's nothing on the rubric that says, oh, their formatting was terrible, -1 point. However, the thing to keep in mind is that formatting issues can lead to clarity issues. Who has gotten an email that is a giant single paragraph and wanted to cry? All the time, and I have literally printed out emails and highlighted sections to try to figure out, did I answer all the questions? I have no idea. If you love bullet points, they often don't carry between Word and portals, but you can use dashes. You can use slashes and brackets and things to try to differentiate. As a reviewer, the only thing that I ever see that really makes me sigh is when it's just giant blocks of text. Please use paragraphs. We love them. You can hit the enter key and space it out a little bit, but you won't be dinged for that. You will be dinged for math errors, though. That is actually a point on your rubric. Does the math? So please check that. Other questions, comments, concerns?
Okay, we really are.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to share horror stories episode. Oh, yes, please.
So last year, I was on her like 30 days in advance. Send me something. So 2 days before. Some of the areas. She waited till the last minute. So that was horrifying because I
Oh, no. Yeah, that is a horror story, especially if you have that whole time period where you have 30 days. So the horror story was that there was a 30-day period to complete this grant. Grant writer was out of state, and even after checking in, it wasn't done until the last couple of days. And then when it was submitted, there was no documents attached, and there were blanks in the application. So I can't imagine that that worked out very well for you.
No, she doesn't work for us anymore.
It definitely did not work out well for her. Yeah. Yeah, the question is, when you submit an application, do you get confirmation that it has been submitted and also a copy of what you have submitted? Yeah, in the Neighborly portal, you will be able to see that status, and it will say complete, and there's actually like a little symbol that you can see that it is complete there, and then you will be able to see that. Yeah. Yeah, what a great question. So if you have it, like, if you don't have that little check mark, it doesn't say complete, it is not done yet.
And you've done it early, so then if you're really anxious about it, you know, you're 2 weeks out, you have time to call the city and double check.
Okay, so you will be able to access this. It's going to be on the city's website. I believe will an email be sent out of the presentations? Will it come through email or just accessible on the website?
The presentation will be on the website. Everything that we're going over. If you don't see it out there, ask.
There you go. Okay, so this whole presentation, these are linked here. So these are some resources and referrals, especially if you need some data resources. Here is a whole list of data resources that you will be able to access on the website. And that takes us to the end. And thank you so much. If you have any questions for United Way, if you want to learn more about how the review process works, you can reach out to me directly, and I will stick around for a minute. So thank you all for bearing with us and being a part of this. Sorry, Richard. There we go.
So before you go, let me share a couple more things that came up as we were going over everything. One, again, everything's going to be on the website. If you don't see it, you can't find it, contact us. I anticipate this should be out there by Monday. Okay, so it should be there. The other thing is, nobody asks, especially none of the new people ask, is how much do we grant? How much do we give people, right? So for most of the public services grants, it's between $10,000 and $40,000. Okay, so if you're asking for $200,000, you're not going to get it, because we don't have that much money. So be aware of where we're at and make good decisions around that. Okay? All right. Thank you all again. Hold on, one more question. Yes, ma'am?
So based on, if there is a plan,
The question is if we can't give what you're asking for, do you not get it? And the answer is that, one, is that there is a place out there where you're going to be required to specify how much you're asking for, right? And when we review these, if your organization provides an application that meets the criteria and ranks highly, then what we will do is we will analyze the amount of funds we have available with the city council, and they will allocate that across the organizations. And if it is reduced, if it's possible that you can accept a reduced amount, we'll work with you on that, okay? So if you're asking for 40 and we only have 30 to give to you, we will negotiate that with you, okay? Yes, ma'am. Home is going to be project-based, okay? And we could talk about that after this. Anything else? Again, thank you. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate all your efforts and energy that you put into serving our community. Thank you.